are now live. All right, welcome everyone. This is Agile Minds, and today's topic we're going to be talking about first time as Scrum Master slash, or if you're product owner, right? What does that feel like? What does that look like? And also some stuff to expect or prepare for before you go into your job as a Scrum Master, and also your first day on the job. So to start with, I thought we can go around and kind of share our experience during our first day on the job. How did that feel like? What did you do prior to your first day on the job? And also, how did you feel knowing that you got in that job? I know that was a lot in one, but let's take one at a time. So how did you feel when you found out that you got the offer? What was those feelings? How did that feel like? Humphrey, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I would say, well, my first one, I was really officially a Scrum Master. And I say officially because I was prior a business analyst, well, kind of subbing as a Scrum Master. But then when I finally got the opportunity to be a Scrum Master, all of a sudden, I felt overwhelmed with responsibility to kind of, do my best, right? I was in familiar settings, so most of the people I did know kind of at least had a working relationship with. But basically, I felt like I had nobody to really help me, right? So I must say it took about a week or so. I ended up every day was pretty nervous, but at least I knew the basics. At least I knew what it would take to do one thing or the other, right? Such as the ceremonies and stuff like that. But that's, you know what, that's not enough as a Scrum Master. So I remember, but I was very enthusiastic about this new way of operating, right? And the software development lifecycle, right? Because I was familiar with most of what was going on, but just this agile thing wasn't really what I was good at, right? So there was a lot of learning on the job, and my situation was, I was learning by fire because there was a lot of questions, deadlines. Yeah, of course, when you're dealing with stakeholders that need to know when things are done or whether they can get a certain feature put in, all these things, managing teams, kind of teaching them agile, all this stuff. I'm trying to teach and coach at the same time I'm learning. So I was learning and doing the same thing. And so I just remember that time was really stressful. Of course, I might have made some mistakes, especially not timing when certain stories should be getting into completion and perhaps missing the importance of certain meetings. That's what I could remember. But yeah, my first experience was kind of, I just remember stepping in very nervous, and I had to learn every day. Like I was reading a lot on agile methodologies and, watching YouTube every night after work so I could get better at the job.
I think you kind of tapped into the follow-up question I wanted to ask, Brian. As far as it being nervous, what did you do to help calm you down? Because I think that's something for anyone starting any job. You're always going to be anxious and nervous. So what were some of the things that you did to calm you down? And also, do you feel like being a business analyst helps kind of smoothing that transition for you? Because, nowadays people are looking for technical Scrum Master, right? So did you feel like that was also helpful for you?
Yeah, I definitely think before getting into how I dealt with my nervousness, how I was able to quickly adapt, I strongly believe is because I was familiar with the software development lifecycle, right? What it takes to get from concept to product. That at least I understand very well. And you know that from being a business analyst, where a business analyst, primarily their job is to gather requirements from the stakeholder, right? You're questioning, you're actually putting together design docs that not only you basically put down what is being asked by the client, you're also designing on how a certain software is going to get it done, and being delivered to developers and getting feedback from developers about maybe changing some kind of operation or whatever, right? So you at least know that. Um, but you don't necessarily manage the developer or manage how these stories are supposed to. It is one distinct job, and basically your input is from this from the client, and then your output are design docs and perhaps being a consultant for the dev team. How I dealt with nervousness is basically being prepared, right? And this is a practice that I've continued to do, right? With, especially let's say for a scanner, for instance, I would basically have an agenda and go by the agenda, right? And if I could deliver on the agenda, again, with confidence, you fake it till you make it, that's fine, especially with a DSU, which is supposed to be 15 minutes. So that's how I dealt with it, was trying to get, just being as prepared as I possibly can be.
Okay, nice one. What about you, Mr. Kirk? You're in the building.
Okay, well, for me, I came from a technical background. So the product that I'm actually the product owner for is a product that I worked on. I use it for testing and troubleshooting. So for me, getting the position of a product owner, I was kind of nervous because I had no idea what, I've never heard of Scrum. I didn't know what a product owner was. I didn't know what Agile was, So basically how I got the position is a manager that I had worked with before. He reached out to me because of, my experience and because I worked on the tool. So when I got the position, I was pretty much waiting for training. I got some user stories because there was prior to me, there was another PO that was working on that particular product. But this manager, he was forming a team and he was shifting people around. So I got handed over some user stories, and I wasn't familiar with the user stories. And, I started looking at the user stories to try to get an understanding of, what it's used for. And then, so about, a couple of weeks into the position, I was just gathering information, trying to create a product backlog, going through some old user stories, and then reaching out to my former team members to get more details of what they were looking for. Now, the funny thing about this is that even though I was on, that team, I never interacted with a product owner to give a user stories, but other members of my team would interact. So I didn't know that portion of what my team was doing. All I was focusing on was just troubleshooting and stuff like that. So when I got the position, later on, I got training in SAFe, but then I still want to, because of my technical background, I always want to, deep dive. So I started taking, besides the courses that I was given, I went ahead and took some classes on my own. First I got trained for a product owner, but I wanted to know the whole deal. I wanted to know what a Scrum Master does. I wanted more details. So I took a course on Udemy and I got a little bit more familiar with it. So after about a month in the position now, we started our project, and then, my development team was in India. So I was given, the contact for, development team and a Scrum Master, and I reached out to the Scrum Master. He set up a time, for me to introduce myself to the team. So I did that. It was kind of nerve-wracking because I'm working with, software developers, and I'm supposed to explain to them what I'm looking for and getting all these, gathering all this information. So I'm thinking I have to know everything. And then I realized, no, I don't have to know everything. It's just a matter of, communicating and reaching out to other people. And my biggest problem, with SAFe, I was always like an engineer. So I kind of like an engineer, you can just like work in your little silo and keep to yourself. So you don't have to really do a lot of presentation. Then I realized that, I had to do a lot of presentation, a lot of speaking.
Yes,
I'm always nervous
SAFe, yes.
in public. So the funny thing is, even though I'm nervous speaking in front of people, I've always been put in that position where I had to do it. So
Of me.
when I realized I had to do this often, so every opportunity that I got to do like public speaking, I'll just go ahead and do it because I figured, okay, I got to get these butterflies out my stomach. And the more I remove the butterflies, the more calm, relax, and I'll be able to, express myself. And so it's been fun, but it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but had to do a lot of homework. When I say a lot of homework, it was just my personal development I had to work on. Like they say, you have to fail fast. So I did that, and the more you work, the better your experience becomes, and then even teach, you get a better understanding, a better feeling, you become more comfortable with what you're doing.
I definitely can relate to that. Going back to my first job was actually a job that I actually didn't think I was gonna get, right? It was one of those interviews that I thought, oh, here goes another interview again that I did not do well. And I think that also comes from me I'm just a critical person, right? I'm like my biggest critique. I'm always saying, okay, that you can improve that. What can you improve on, right? So is the job that I did get as a Scrum Master was definitely not something that I thought I would actually get. Interesting. The interview was more of, I feel like, being personable and just having a conversation. I think that's when I really broke that interview, right, and really was able to obtain that first role. So it was definitely exciting. At the same time, it was overwhelming, right, because now I'm like, okay, I've been studying. Literally my whole room was covered in Agile stuff, Scrum, Agile, Kanban, whatever you name it. My whole room was filled with sticky notes of everything that I could possibly think of, or everything that I've learned either online or through some kind of course. And then I know for my first day at the job, oh my God, I was so nervous. I was sweating. Even the clothes that I had on was like, you could see the sweat on it, even though it was remote, right? But I was still so scared. Like I was like, yeah, my first meeting, what should I do? What should I expect, right? Who to talk to? What to do, so that way I feel like I'm a valuable member. So it was definitely scary. I think the first day that I joined is definitely important to have someone to talk to or connect with even prior to your first day of starting. So that way they can kind of give you that reassurance, that confirmation, and say, okay, this is what to expect, or try to do this on your first day, right? And I think if anything, the important thing is to just relax. Yes, relax. Yes. I think a lot of Scrum Masters or anyone, we forget to do that. Relax. I think even going back on my first day, I was thinking I was going to conquer like 100 things. Okay, I'm supposed to do this, set up meeting, join this meeting, facilitate this, do A, B, C, D. But in reality, it's not that, right? Your first day, even your first week, you're not really expected to like start taking on major things, right? So having that in mind, I was so anxious thinking I'm just going to jump right in. So it's important to just relax, take a deep breath, and go with the flow, right? And I think another thing for me too was knowing that I don't have to know everything, right? Yeah. I don't have to do everything. Yes. It's important to say, and also it's important to admit it, that I don't know it. I think going in, I wanted to be the know-it-all, like, but if you ask me a question, I have to have an answer to it, right? And I think that even put more pressure on me as a Scrum Master going into my first role. So that was kind of my take on it. So let's kind of talk about our first day on the job. What were some of the things that you did on your first day?
I can't remember really, but what I could kind of relate was, okay, like especially what after your first meeting, right? What's the state of mind, right? What was my state of mind? It's like, what are they find out that I'm not good at this? That this is not my thing. You're right. That now that nobody's online, what are they? They're probably talking about, maybe they need to reconsider, right? By someone else.
Yes.
So those kind of thoughts are going through my mind. And then, so what could you do? But so just like you mentioned, Victoria, I did have somebody actually, a relative of mine, my cousin-in-law, was in that space, so he kind of coached me in a few things and gave me some reassurance, right? So I always needed that, and so it set me up for then what's the next thing I needed to do was, prepare for the next meeting or prepare for, asking questions or be confident enough to ask questions from your team members, right? To get the kind of feedback you can, move forward with. But so those were the things. So there was a lot of lonely periods. So you feel like you're alone in this company, and and not only alone, they can't see like you not, accepted for the job. So those are the kind of thoughts that kind of that could have gone over my mind at that time.
Kirk, what about you?
For me, the first day on the job, I had some user stories some existing user stories that I had to modify. Then I had to create my own user stories. I know the very first time that I met with my team members, I was quite nervous because, I felt like I had to know everything. But after the first day, I just reached out directly to to the Scrum Master, and I kind of got a little bit more comfortable, after speaking with him that, I don't necessarily have to know everything. Anytime the developers, they wanted more information, I just always told them, okay, I'll get back to them. I didn't have to answer it, on the spot. It's some questions I could answer on the spot, but then there are other things that, for the requirements, the acceptance stories, I had to reach out to the end user because they're the ones who are, requesting the features. And then based on their feedback, I could go ahead and write acceptance criteria. So I was a little bit nervous on how to do all of that, and then even how to use some of the tools. But, like you, I had all these books. It's one thing when you reading the books, they just give you the background. But when you have to actually do the work, it's, it's slightly different. Now I did have a good support team because the other POs that are on the art with me, they were all new as well. There's only one person that was on our art that had, well, two that had experience. So we just got a little feedback from them. They helped us out a lot to make us feel more comfortable. And that was basically it. So it's just a lot of it is just like trial and error. You can follow the guidelines, all the Scrum documents, all the stuff in class, but then, you gotta get your feet wet. There's so many things that the books can tell you. They can't tell you every aspect of your job. So a lot of it is just like, you just have to test the waters and just be confident.
Definitely factual. I can even relate to the fact that I feel like I can relate even on the first day, whereas when you're asked a question and you feel like you have to answer it right then and there, the thought that, no, I cannot tell them I don't know the answer, right? I have to give them something or answer the question right there and there. And I even think for my first job, and even I noticed for other jobs too, typically when you join in as a Scrum Master or when you start in the role, I noticed sometimes your manager would probably join a couple of the meetings, right? Maybe the first week of the meeting, you facilitating those meetings, right? I hate that process. And then not only are you like anxious about the team, right? And anxious about facilitating the meeting, because I'm someone whereas even though you might not believe this, but I actually hate speaking in public. I hate speaking to people. I hate presenting anything that requires people to be looking at me doing it. I don't like it. But interestingly, I put myself in a career where it requires me to do that, right? But I think it has kind of brought me out of that shell. But going back was where not only am I worried about what I'm saying, how I'm saying things, right? And ensuring that I'm communicating the right thing. Because even coming from, I would say, I guess from an African background, you have accents, you have ways that you say things that people may not relate or know what that means, right? So all of that was going through my head. And then here my manager joins the meeting too, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get fired today because I know they're gonna know that I don't know what I'm talking about, right? So having all of that, and I feel like all of that is just being anxious and being anxiety, having those anxiety, right? So it's important to kind of relax and know that you don't know it all. And you don't have to have the answer right then and there. It's okay to say, let's park that. But as long as I follow up, right? Even following up is where you start building that trust with your team, because then they can assure that this information that we're looking for is not going to go behind the crack or fall into the crack, right? They know that you're going to bring back an answer, whether today or the following day, right? So that even gives them assurance and confidence in you as a Scrum Master. So it's interesting. Another thing I ever remember, like I'll be in meetings, facilitating those meetings, right? Especially in daily stand-up. If the developers are not saying much or they're not saying anything, I'm like, oh, they know. They know. They know. They've caught me. They're probably talking about me, or they're probably going after this meeting. They're probably going to talk about me. I don't know if it's just me, but I know even sometimes when stand up or a meeting is over, I would wait to be the last person to leave the meeting because I want to know, are they staying back to talk about me? Anxiety is crazy, but literally those are like the thoughts that I would have in my head. Oh, are they staying back to talk about me? No, I even sometimes when developers or manager will say, hey, can someone else stay back so we can talk about something? I'm like, oh my God, they're about to talk about me. I want to know why you guys staying back, what's going on, right? So those information or those things that happen really cause anxiety, right? And you not really being assured of the things that you're saying, even though you do have the knowledge, right? It's there, but just anxiety really can get the best from you. So when you start the job as a Scrum Master or as a product owner or even a business analyst, what are some things should you be doing? Your first day, your third day, and the first week of your job. What is the expectation? So first day, first day, third day, 1 week versus 2 weeks. What are some of the expectations you think? Humphrey, you want to go first?
But basically, the way I'll probably phrase that question is say, what would you tell day one Humphrey, right? What could he have done better, or what could his mindset be? And one thing I would tell him, or all those who are looking at your first day, right after your first day, that it's never that bad, right? It's not that bad. And this opportunity that you have in this agile space is that all you have to do is outdo yourself the next day. So once you have that increment of improvement, right? You basically on your way, right? If you did better than you did yesterday, if your presentation or how you articulated things better than it was that first day, or you answer questions or even ask the right questions better than the first day. You know, if you even implement something new, refreshing, just to show that continuous progress, continuous improvement, right? That is what matters most. It's that you don't show, you don't show what you did, even if you did okay, right? You want to always put have a better version of yourself the next day. Yeah, that's it. As a Scrum Master, you have to be as we just heard from both Kirk and Victoria, is that you have to you have to be a sponge when it comes to learning, because some of these times you only do have a few hours. Hopefully you have a whole night, but sometimes you only have a few hours to kind of digest information and then deliver it, right? So being an avid learner, a student is that's important, and that helped me.
Okay. So what are some of the tips for first day, third day, 1 week, and 2 weeks? Kirk, you can also.
First day is just try some breathing exercises, right? Get through the first day. Just get through the first day, breathing exercises. Then 1 week, again, just try to do one-on-ones your first week. Meet everybody and do one-on-ones, just ping them, say, hey, let's talk just a few minutes, introduce ourselves. Just try to get that at least in your first week. That's what I did when I was assigned to a different project. And again, continue to show progress.
Okay, Kirk, what about you?
Okay, for me, as a product owner, I'm assuming that the person knows like the basics, how to write a user story, and features and stuff like that. But besides that, I would say is to try to keep, these are things that you shouldn't do. Don't try to manage everything yourself. And don't have like a limited interaction with your Scrum Master. You want to be able to communicate with your Scrum Master as much as possible, because that's the easiest way to influence your team. A second thing is trying to manage a product backlog from a non-technical point of view. You have to be a little bit technical, and even if you're not that technical, reach out to a SME or SME, just to clarify, any doubts that you may have. And it's okay to tell them, look, can you explain this to me as if you're explaining it to like a fifth grader? Just make it, you want to make them explain it to you in simple terms. It doesn't have to be all that complicated, so that just to ensure that you understand, what it is you're working on and what you develop, you're going to be explaining to your development team. And another thing is, you don't want to try to track all the activities of your Scrum team. Allow them to optimize and organize themselves. So that's basically it. Just make sure you understand the basics of what the responsibilities are of a product owner, and the different types of people you may interact with. You may interact with another PO, a product manager. You may interact, you're going to interact with stakeholders. You're going to interact with system architects, and the list goes on. So just gather all your information on who you need to reach out to. And that's, I would say, that's what you do for maybe like your first, second week. The first week, you just want to get acquainted with your Scrum Master. Definitely keep in touch with the Scrum Master. Always communicate, and don't try to boss anyone around. Just
please say that loud. Say that loud.
And listen. It's you're not you're not their boss. You're working together as a team. So don't try to be someone that's overpowering, and just be understanding, and understand that they also have families and stuff like that. So you want to be they always say a Scrum Master is like a servant leader. You as an individual product owner, you should also be a servant leader as well. You want to serve your team, because you're working together. You're not their boss. So just don't be bossy. Just be able to listen. Say that loud. Yes, because I've heard like stories, there's horror stories about how some product owners behave. And when I heard that, I thought it was strange. Just always try to be understanding. And when you're dealing with your developers, and your Scrum Master, just try to put yourself in their shoes sometimes before you react. And and I think if one does that, you learn and you grow, and I think your team will be successful.
Yeah, I've definitely worked with some product owners who were definitely bossy. They might as well just take your job, right? And take the developer's job as well. So it's important to, when you go into a team, right, understand, even as a Scrum Master and as a product owner, it's good to be assertive, but at the same time, right, you're not there to micromanage. Think about yourself. If someone is micromanaging you, how would you feel, right? You probably wouldn't want to say much. You probably wouldn't want to feel the best, right? Even Agile says it, communication and collaboration, right, over processes and tools. If your team feels comfortable, they communicate together, they're motivated to do the work, right, they're probably going to do better work and better quality. For me, I would say first day as a Scrum Master, I think a lot of it is more of onboarding process, right? You're trying to set up You're trying to get your tools working. You're trying to make sure you have any, all of the tools that they're using, whether it's Jira, Confluence, Azure, version 1, whatever the case may be, right? Project management tools, you're trying to make sure you have access to them, right? Because access is important. And also when it comes to those collaboration tools, logging into Teams or WebEx or Zoom, whatever it is that you guys use, right? Whatever the organization uses, making sure you have access, even Slack, if that's the form of communication with the team, right? Making sure you have access to those platforms, I would say. Even for me, I think on the first day, it's important to also like message your managers just to let them know that you're here, right? And you're looking forward to maybe setting up a meeting the second or the third day with them, right? But the first day, I would say just trying to onboard, do a lot of HR processes, whether it's those trainings you might have to go through, right? That's typically what happens on the first day, assets and all of that. Then I would say probably the second, third day, typically I like to set up meetings with the management, right? Whether it is the product owner, I want to set up a meeting with them to start talking about the product that or the vision that the team is working on. I also set up a meeting with my manager, right? Just to say, hey, this is what's going on so far. I need this, or I don't need this, or I'm set, right? And then I'll try to set up a meeting with the engineering manager or the tech lead or the tech manager, whomever that is, right? Or the lead developer, whomever that is. I will set up a meeting with them to understand more about the project. So the product owner and the tech lead or the dev lead to kind of give me an understanding of the product itself, the team dynamic and the work that the team is doing, right? I want to understand the project or the product. So I would get that information from them. And I take a lot of notes. Literally, I take notes as I'm asking questions. What is the product? What does it do, right? What is the problem? What is the solutions that we're trying to fix? So those are some questions that I'll be asking either the product owner or the dev lead, right? The team dynamic, what does that look like? How big are you guys on Agile, right? What are some of the anti-patterns? What are things that you guys are struggling with that you may need help or support with, right? As a Scrum Master coming in, what are things I should expect? What are some of the weaknesses or strengths with the team, right? What did the prior Scrum Master did that you do not like, or that you like that you would like me to start incorporating or continue doing, right? So those are questions that I would ask just to get an idea of the team in general. And then I would even dive into them, asking them their experience on Agile, right? Just to gauge that knowledge and also to understand their perspective on the team and implementing Agile, right? So when stuff happens, I know why that is coming up, right? So those are questions that I would typically ask maybe the second, third day with the product owner, the dev lead. And then I like to set up a meeting with another Scrum Master that is within that organization, right? Either the current Scrum Master for that team or any Scrum Master that's within the art trade or that is within something that the team have dealt with, right? So I will speak with them to understand the organization structure, Scrum Master perspective, leadership role, how Scrum Masters are viewed, right? And the role of the Scrum Master within her team, right? How does that look like? So that's typically what I would do. And then I will either try to request to join another Scrum Master in their meeting. So if I'm joining a team that, or the Scrum Master is still there, then of course I would request for all of those meetings. So then I can start joining and start seeing how they're doing their ceremonies, right? And that will kind of give me tips, especially if I'm a new Scrum Master, I want that, right? So then I see, okay, oh, this is how they do things, all right? Oh, okay. This is how it should look like, right? And that helps build your confidence a little bit. If it's a team that you're joining that doesn't have a Scrum Master, I would definitely say try to join another Scrum Master in their meetings, right? And sometimes I typically say, I just want to watch, observe how you guys do things because I understand different organizations do things differently. And I don't want to come in making any changes or doing things that does not work for you guys, right? So I just want to observe how you do things so that way I can assimilate that. And then of course, eventually in the future, then we can start working together on how to make some changes, right? So that's typically how I like to go with this, so that way I'm observing and building some confidence, taking some notes, doing some observation. And then of course, that should kind of build your calendar or you keep you busy a little bit. And then maybe the first week, moving to the second week, I start doing one-on-one with the developers, right? Trying to talk to them about themselves, their understanding in Scrum or Agile, their take on the team, whether it's the strength, weaknesses, some anti-patterns that they know. What are some things that they would like to start doing with the team, right? How do they feel about those meetings, right? So those are things that I would start getting from them. And then even that would help me build their working agreements, right? Whether it's, hey, do you guys have definition of done? Do you guys have definition of ready? Right? Those are questions that I'll be asking in those one-on-one. And that would also give me insight on, they don't have working agreement. We should talk about this and add this, right? That's actually what makes you valuable to the team, because you're pointing out things that they don't have and that could be impactful or useful to that team. And when you bring it in, they can really appreciate that, especially if it's something that is going to make their process or the way they do work more efficient and better, right? So, I mean, for me, that's what I would say for your first day, third day, first week, and going into the second week. And then, of course, after your second week, that's when the work begins. You should be ready to rumble, right? So second week, actually, maybe the third week, that's typically when you should start facilitating meetings, right? Start taking some of those ownership, start leading the team effectively. Even sometimes in the first and second week, I'll even say, go through their Confluence page, go through their stories in the backlog and their stories in the current sprint, right? To try to understand some of those stories. What is it talking about? Sometimes they would have architectural diagrams or process flows, right? Or even project documents on their Confluence page. I will literally use the first and second week to go through that. Even sometimes I'll set up a meeting with the SME, right? Or the architect and say, hey, can you please walk through the process for me, right? And as they're walking through the process, I'll be taking notes. What are some of the teams that we normally come across or normally would have dependencies with, right? I'll put those team names and then I'll literally write a list who is a Scrum Master and who is a product owner and who is a tech lead, because then I know if it's Data Hub team, right? I know the Scrum Master is this, I know the PO is this, right? And those are the people that I would need to interact with more often, right? And I will probably send them a message and say, hey, Victoria from LLB team, just saying hi, I'm new, and I just wanted to interact with you, and so that way you know who I am, right? So that's typically what I will be doing the first to the second week. Did I miss anything? I think I covered.
You covered quite a bit, especially to find those existing documentation, right? And going back to that helps a lot. Yeah. Have that background on whatever they're working on, and that gives you the relationship with the developer. And that's what I'm talking about, the learning aspect, that you have to speak their language, right? Even if you're not really concerned with the tools, but at least you know what the process is. So basically, you become one of them. So what I believe that's what you're describing in your third week. By the time you have your third week, you have all this interaction and what have you. But basically, it's a little background knowledge. Now the team is yours. Now you can really dive in, be relaxed. And your facilitations, and the sky's the limit at that point.
Sky is the limit, hopefully.
Yeah, so true. And and one thing I've learned is we got from different cultures and stuff like that, and my team, they didn't open up to me right away, but I forgot, I must have done, I don't know what I did. But I think after the first our first iteration, I sent I gave them all shout outs, doing a system demo, and I sent a message to their manager, and it they warmed up to me. So and the funny thing is, one of my team members said to me, it's Kirk, I would normally not even say this, but he started just getting comfortable with me, and sometimes my Scrum Master, I had so many Scrum Masters, but my second one, we kind of sometimes we'll stay back on a call, when everybody else leaves, and we'll just talk about things that's going on, just just in our personal stuff. and then work stuff. And that, we developed like a good friendship as well as a working relationship. And even though he when he was looking for another position, I kind of gave him some pointers, and he was really feeling down. He wanted to progress. I said, no, keep at it. And then, he got that position, but I felt so, I felt good knowing that he was able to reach out to me like that. Normally, they don't really, they're not really exactly relaxed with you in that way, but I'm just glad that I have a good working relationship with all my Scrum Masters, as well as my my current teammates. When some of them were leaving, some of them were contractors and they were going somewhere, they thank me for words of encouragement, and stuff like that. So it makes me realize that I'm doing something right. So it's always good to not to be so, it's nothing wrong with being assertive, but then know your limits, that, don't try to boss people around, and they'll be more receptive to you, and they'll be willing to work on whatever it is that you want them to work on. Believe you me, they'll work on it, because, they have that, they know that you will, have their backs in whatever situation.
Definitely. So times, right? And not just time without putting in work, but time and putting in work. Work as far as in building relationship, and not just building relationship, right? Knowing the product, knowing the work itself. Because through knowledge brings power. Through knowledge brings that trust and that relationship with people. So I think Scrum Master definitely put a lot of effort in understanding the product or the project itself, right? So that way you can be able to be helpful and impactful to the team, and as well as the product owner as well. All right. Oh, I'm sorry.
There's one thing that I did. Okay, so this is from the most experienced product owner on my team. At one point, he was saying that I shouldn't bring some of the SMEs onto the calls, because it's like I don't want what he doesn't want us. Us to fall into that trap where now the developers, the end users will bypass me as a product owner and go to my development team. And the way I established that, I just let them know that if there's something that they want, just reach out to me, and then I will reach out to my developers. I don't allow them, they need the end users to go directly to my to my developers. They know their names and stuff like that, but that's where I just kind of draw the line. I even let my developers know that, look, if they're reaching out to you, just let me know, because let me know what's going on, because if they're just reaching out to you now and something happens, then it's on you, not on me. So when we have that relationship, I think everything goes smooth. Just letting everyone knows their position and their responsibilities.
I think in the next session we should talk about roles and responsibilities, especially in the Agile and the team, because I feel like sometimes product owners, I'm sorry, girl. I feel like sometimes product owners overstep their boundaries or do not stay to their roles. I think that's an important subject to talk about.
Others just are really laid back. They're like, do you have any questions, Mr. P.O.?
No, we can go on. Oh, we have a dependency.
There's a demo here. Is there anything you'd like to change? No. All
right. I think this is it. Thank you guys for joining, and I hope that whoever is viewing this was helpful. And we will try to have more discussion about Agile and about working as friends and about being a Scrum Master, being a product owner, and being an Agile or an IT environment, right? So hope you guys can stay tuned and join us in this journey, or
you can say that.
This journey with us.
It is a journey.
Whatever the case may be. All righty.